Hello or welcome to the course Industrial Engineering. This is lecture number 2 of the Industrial Engineering course. In this lecture we will be studying about history of industrial engineering. Lecture number 1 is Introduction to Industrial Engineering. If you haven't seen that lecture, that is given in the description, link is given in the description. Please watch that before watching this lecture number 2. So, history of industrial engineering. Industrial engineering evolved gradually as industries sought to improve productivity, efficiency and quality. So, industrial engineering is not a new subject, it is evolved through centuries or decades. So, when industries wanted to increase or improve its productivity, efficiency and quality, the subject of industrial engineering also evolved gradually along with it. Here we can see the key stages in the history of industrial engineering. First is industrial revolution, then division of labor, scientific management, motion study, production planning, then modern industrial engineering. We will see one by one in detail. Year wise, the history of industrial engineering is shown here. In 1760, around that time, industrial revolution happened. That is factory system. Then Adam Smith came. Then Charles Babbage came. Then F.W. Taylor, Frank and Lillian Gilbreth, Henry Gantt. Then modern industry, that is now. So we will see one by one in detail. So first, the history of industrial engineering starts with the industrial revolution that began in England during 1760 to 1840. We have studied in history a lot about industrial engineering, industrial revolution. So along with that, industrial engineering also started. So naturally, industrial revolution was in England and industrial engineering is also started there. So during industrial revolution, introduction to machines in industries that happened. Before that, manual labor was the main form of work or a main form of power production. But later, during this industrial revolution time, that is 1760 to 1814, many machines were introduced, and out of that the most important one was steam engine that revolutionized manufacturing. We know that James Watt, who is the inventor of steam engine, after the invention of steam engine, the pace of industrial revolution became very fast, or it moved very exponentially. Then the major change happened is this shift from cottage industries to factory production. Earlier, all the machines or all the work or all the businesses were in small cottages or houses, but that changed to a centralized location known as factory, that is cottage industries to factory production. During cottage industries, it was small production, all quantities in small were produced, but this industrial revolution and the formation of factories caused large scale production. So due to the large scale production, the need for better production planning and management became a necessity. So industrial revolution paved way for industrial engineering. So first of all, we will see the pioneer in industrial engineering, that is none other than Adam Smith. During 1776, he published his masterpiece, The Wealth of Nations. So this is same Adam Smith who is also known as the father of capitalism. So in this book, he coined the term division of labor. He came with a new term, that is division of labor. He introduced this concept during 1776. He demonstrated that specialization increases productivity. Okay, that is workers became more efficient by performing specific tasks. For example, earlier one worker was assembling and doing the other kinds of work like a sewing or doing pottery work, and then keeping that finished product in the assembly line. Then he was the same one who was doing the cleaning operations. So one worker was doing lot of different kinds of work. But Adam Smith found that if one worker is doing only one job, that is cutting only, or another worker is doing drilling only, and the third worker is doing assembly, and the fourth worker is doing inspection only, then the efficiency increased exponentially. So that was his contribution, Adam Smith. Then came the famous Charles Babbage in 1832. In that time, he published on the economy of machinery and manufacturers. And Charles Babbage is not unfamiliar to us. He is the same person who is known as the father of computer. Okay, so in industrial engineering, his contribution is immense. He studied manufacturing cost, and he introduced scientific methods of factory management. And he also supported, like Adam Smith, specialization of labor. That is, one person is specialized in a particular kind of work. He will be doing only that work. And he emphasized cost reduction and efficient production. If cost is reduced, then production efficiency will increase, and naturally profit also will increase. That was his contribution, Charles Babbage. And then came the most important person in industrial engineering. He is none other than Frederick W. Taylor, or F.W. Taylor. Okay, so he is known as the father of scientific management, and his contributions are unparalleled. He introduced scientific management. He developed time study, scientific management. Then he standardized work methods. That is, for each work, for example, for doing a cleaning work, or doing a drilling work, or doing a grinding work, he found that this much standard time is required for each work. So he standardized that work, and his methods improved labor productivity. And he established scientific selection and training of world. That is, he started training the laborers. He understood the importance of giving training to the laborers. And his important principles are given here: science instead of rule of thumb. scientific selection of workers, cooperation between management and workers. Earlier there was always conflict between management and workers. Management never talked to the workers. There was somebody in between management and workers, like supervisors. They talked to the workers for the management, but he emphasized the importance of cooperation between management and workers. And then equal division of work and responsibility. When work is given, responsibility is also given. Then the workers felt importance in their life. They felt a sense of importance. So F.W. Taylor is known as the father of scientific management. He is also the father of industrial engineering. Then these couples, Frank and Lillian Gilbreth, husband and wife, their contribution is motion study. So they developed motion study. They had a camera with them. They recorded the movements of the workers, and they found that there were many unnecessary movements while doing some works, and they eliminated those unnecessary worker movements. So that improved workplace efficiency. Also, that reduced worker fatigue. And they introduced another term, that is thurblings. The thurblings is a term used for basic motions in the factory. Their contribution, some examples are given here, show two methods of lifting an object. So an object can be lifted by two methods. One method is very difficult, that is that will cause fatigue for the worker, but another method that is easier to lift an object. They introduced that. So they found that many of the workers were doing unnecessary movements, or they were not using the same efficient motions during the work time. So traditional method was there. Instead of that, improved ergonomic method came. Ergonomic means it is related to human body motions. They have done time study, they have done motion study. The time study answers how long one work can be completed, or how long is required to complete a work. And motion study answers how means how to do that work by avoiding unnecessary worker movements. Then another important person in the history of industrial engineering is Henry L. Gantt. He is also a familiar name. He invented, or he introduced, the famous Gantt chart. This is a Gantt chart. We all know about Gantt chart, that is used for scheduling purposes. So this Gantt chart used for scheduling purposes in a factory, that improved production scheduling. Also the projects could complete on time. So this Gantt chart helped in planning and monitoring of projects. For example, in this chart we can see January 19th planning should be started, then March 19th planning should be up to that. Okay, then during February 19th we should start the research. That company should start the research and ends on the same day of planning. Then after planning and research, design should start on this day and should end on this day. Then the actual implementation comes, and then follow up. So we can understand from this chart when this project may be completed. If there is some, also we can give some flexibility in the Gantt chart. So this chart increased control over production activities. So that is his contribution. So these were the pioneers in the industrial engineering scenario. And now modern industrial engineering, we have many other tools, many other options. Now industrial engineering has expanded into operations research, quality control, production planning, supply chain management, automation, robotics, artificial intelligence, and now industry 4.0. Nowadays we know that automation is there. We can see the these kind of packets are transferred by unmanned vehicles, and robots are used everywhere to transfer, also to pick and place operations. So in modern times, industrial engineering also got its importance. Industrial engineering is everywhere. In every factory we can see industrial engineering. So this is the history of industrial engineering. More about industrial engineering, the basics terms used in industrial engineering, and other topics we will study in the coming lectures. If you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please subscribe by clicking the logo on top right corner, and click notifications too, so that you will not miss any of the lectures in future. Thank you.